Welcome to the Pocket. My name is Scooter, here to give you my week 2 reaction to the Giants-Commanders game. And the New York Giants have done it. We have entered the history books. And how did we do it? We invented a new way to lose a football game. The first team to ever score 3 touchdowns and only allow field goals and somehow lose. It could only happen to us, right? I mean, first play of the game, the kickoff, Graham Gano had a groin injury all week during practice. Brian Daboll thought he was good. Turns out he pulls his hammy on that first play, so no kicker for the rest of the game. And we'll get into all the details of what happened on offense and defense and team stats and all that. But just something I wanted to point out before we started this video. So let's get right into it. The final score, 18-21. You would have thought we were the team that were kicking the field goals, but no, we didn't have our kicker. So we went for 2 twice and missed an extra point on our first attempt. The Washington Commanders kicked 7 field goals. Unbelievable. Total yards. They killed us, right? And part of this is, which I'm just going to scroll down to this right away, is the time of possession. They ran the ball all over us. 215 rushing yards, right? And that's what allowed them to hold the ball for 37 minutes, way more than our 22. And even despite them having 5 more penalties, giving us an additional 49 more yards, they punted 0 times. They did allow 5 sacks, right? So that, in addition to the penalties, all the negative plays that they had, they were the same efficiency on third down. They only went for it once on fourth down, and they got it. And they had 22 total first downs. Now, they barely edged us out with the yards per play, 6.2. The Giants definitely looked better on offense when it came to, getting some more intermediate passes going and opening up more holes in the run game. We did have 129 rushing yards. Some of that was Daniel Jones. I think Tyron Tracy had like 1 or 2 carries. But Devin Singletary definitely looked better on the ground, although he did have a fumble, 1 fumble loss, which absolutely killed us. And then the passing yards. You would have expected us to have more passing, right? But, these total plays that they had really gave them a chance to gain more yards on offense, chew up all that clock. 210 passing yards. I don't know how many passes Jaden Daniels threw past the sticks, but it seemed like every single one of them connected, especially to Zach Ertz. For some reason, we still can't cover him. Even when I thought he was going to retire 2 years ago, this guy's still coming back to cook the Giants. So you'll love to see that as an NFC East fan who is not a Giants fan. Zach Ertz cooking the Giants. What else is new? And like I said, total yards 425 to 304. We got killed in time of possession. That mixed with the kicker, really probably one of the most crucial elements to why we lost. So that's the team stats. Let's start talking about individuals now, shall we? And let's start with Brian Daboll. I'll start with the fact that the offense looked a lot better. The run game looked like they were opening up some holes for Devin Singletary. The play calling was more aggressive in the passing game. We had some deep shots that we ended up taking. Didn't convert on, I think, any of them, but it still kind of opened up more underneath, right, for guys like Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson to get open on those short routes and get some yards after catch. So I definitely liked what the offense looked like more this week. However, let's address the elephant in the room. Of course, the hindsight is 2020, but Graham Gano, suffering from a groin injury throughout practice this week, seems to be healthy for the game, but there's no backup kicker on the roster. And then Graham Gano pulls a hamstring chasing down the returner on the first play of the game, and you no longer have a kicker for the rest of the game. Obviously, a lot of people are going to point that out as the reason we lost. There could be many reasons, but that to me is the glaring reason. And as I said, hindsight is 2020, but as a head coach, you're not just there to draw up plays and call them and, try to get Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones, connecting and building chemistry. That's not your only job. Your job is to have this whole team prepared and have it prepared for every outcome, right? Even if you don't think it's likely that Gano was going to get hurt, you got to ask, right? Did it cross his mind to pick up an extra kicker maybe? Do we need that 53rd man on the roster who, outside of the, I guess, 51st or 50th, outside of kicker, punter, and long snapper. Do you really need that 50th guy just to guarantee that you're going to have someone who's going to go out there and kick some field goals? I think if Graham Gano is questionable going into this next game, then we're definitely going to have two kickers on the roster. That's for sure, because Brian Daboll's not going to let that happen again. So you live and you learn. I do think the offense and the team looked much more prepared to win this week. So I'm not going to kill him for one mistake, but obviously you could argue it cost us the game. So Brian Daboll, kind of like a neutral, he I'm not going to say he fixed the offense. It was the Commanders' defense, but he looked a lot better on the offensive side, but still with a crucial error that is a potential game losing decision. So Brian Daboll, I'm not saying he's on the hot seat or anything like that, but I'm going to start to begin to really question the mistakes and the decisions he makes that leads to them. Now, Daniel Jones. I labeled the preview video for this as Daniel Jones' last stand, and it really was. People were ready to jump off and start tanking and all this stuff. We should cut him, or we should start Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito. Hopefully, this game put those takes to rest, because he looked way better this week. And not only that, he was taking shots downfield and almost connecting with Malik Neighbors on two or three of them. So I love to see him being more aggressive. It looked like, as I was asking, he was taking more of a leadership role, talking more on the sidelines. Near the end of the game, when Malik Neighbors dropped that fourth down pass, you could see him talking to him. I'm sure he was saying something like, "Dude, you played great this week. Don't let that bother you. This is a team sport." It looked like he was regaining his confidence, right? And he looked way more comfortable. Maybe it was the uniforms, I don't know, but I think Daniel Jones looked a lot better. So I personally, I love to see it. He's our starting quarterback. I love to see him playing better. So on the flip side, it's not going to get any easier. This was the winnable game. The Vikings game was a winnable game, although they did beat the 49ers. So perhaps I greatly underestimated how good they were. But the schedule's not getting any easier, and we'll get into that later. But he's going to have to sustain and build on this performance in order to keep his job. Now, Malik Neighbors, he is the real deal. One of the greatest rookie wide receiver performances I can remember. Of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. also has a great week, and we knew this was going to be a great wide receiver class. So maybe if the Giants, who definitely are not going to get as much hype as the Cardinals, maybe Malik Neighbors might be forgotten this season. But what a great bounce back for him after a frustrating week one to not be deterred, be confident in his role in this offense, because he's a rookie. What is he? 21 years old. So this is a guy that's younger than me. Most college students are his age or older, and he's going out there on an NFL field being trusted as the alpha wide receiver. So his ability to be a run after catch guy and be a deep threat is something that we are going to be leaning on in this offense, and he seemed to rise to the occasion. Now he did have it seemed like that deep shot down the left sideline that Daniel Jones took to him on that fade route. It seemed like it was right there, but it was a tough catch. Maybe if he laid out a little bit more, he could have got his hands underneath it, but he was right there, right? So I like to see it. It's still an improvement from last week. Let's keep trying it, get better at it. That's the only way. And obviously the drop on fourth down in the fourth quarter on what would have probably been a game-sealing drive. I'm not going to kill him for it. I'm not even going to really criticize him. He had 18 targets, so I'm not surprised that he had one drop, right? As I stated before, he's a rookie stepping into a huge role in a huge market. There's a lot of pressure on him, but um, we wouldn't have even been close to in this position to potentially win the game if it was not for Malik Neighbors' performance. So I'm not for a second going to even consider criticizing him for that drop. So very encouraged by what I saw from Malik Neighbors. Moving on to the offensive line. This just seems to be the one thing that we actually did fix in Joe Shane's regime as the Giants general manager. Carmen Brasillo, Greg Van Roten, John Runyon, Jermaine Illuminor, JMS at center. Obviously, Andrew Thomas is a stud. We allowed, what was it, one sack in this game? Yeah, we only allowed one sack. Daniel Jones had time to throw. Not only that, he had space when there was pressure, that it was just maybe one or two guys, and he could step up and then slide right or to the left. And it felt like he was able to actually process the defense because he wasn't getting swarmed from all directions. So I'm glad we had this at least to hang our hat on, that the offensive line looks much better. It's going to give us an opportunity to be competitive in every game, as long as everything else holds up. And, the Giants obviously aren't a team that you're expecting to make any noise this year. Even last year, people were, some people like me were expecting them to make noise, but other people were calling the fluke on the year before. And part of that was due to our luck with the offensive line staying healthy, and we got exposed. Now it seems like we've got the coach, we've got 5 starters, and we've got some depth pieces. And most importantly, we've got some youth, right? JMS, Andrew Thomas, I'd say he's in his prime. So glad we have this. It's a baby step towards building a better football team, so that if we do move on from Daniel Jones, or if we do keep Daniel Jones and we keep supporting him, we don't have to dump all of our assets into the offensive line and use that as an excuse for Daniel Jones' poor performance. It just creates much more stability for the football team. So very happy about the way the offensive line is playing. It was the Commanders, right? So their defense isn't really that good. So we're gonna hope that in the coming weeks, as we play much more difficult defenses, that we can continue and perhaps even improve. So, with all that being said, talking about the rest of the offense, I mentioned the Singletary fumble. He looked good, but that fumble really killed us. We were playing, he had 6 yards per carry pretty much in a rushing touchdown, which is great, but you give him that fumble and it's, it's just another field goal, right? So that's a potential, we'll call it 9-point swing, right? Because it wouldn't be 10 because we weren't going to make the extra point, and maybe we don't make the 2-point conversion, but it's a potential 9-point swing. And at best, it's a 3-point swing because they were getting down the field and they were going to get the field goal. So really unfortunate that he had that fumble. He's a veteran guy who's supposed to be reliable. So pretty disappointed in Singletary for fumbling. Now for Wandale, quick out, got the touchdown. This is what I like about having an alpha wide receiver like Malik Neighbors. We're definitely not concerned about Wandale. So he was able to get into the end zone, and he's just like a solid 2, right? Good slot receiver. Someone who's going to be on this team who I think is going to get an extension eventually when his time comes. And it's going to be like not a top of the market deal. And hopefully he'll be a Giant for a long time because I like what he brings to the team, right? This is a type of player that you should have on your offense. I'm glad we have him. For the rest of the weapons, Hyatt, Slayton, and the tight ends, I don't really think there was, much to speak of. We only had 4 players with receptions in this game, and it was Neighbors, Slayton, Wandale, and Singletary, who had 1 catch for 0 yards. Slayton, 3 for 33. Him and Daniel Jones coming in together, they've got some chemistry, so if Slayton's out there, he's going to get a couple targets. So the rest of the offense, it seems like it's pretty consolidated, but if we're only throwing it to Malik Neighbors, honestly, I like our odds. He's a great player. It's going to open up, even better looks for the guys behind him. So that's what I have to say about the offense. Moving on to the defense. I have a lot of mixed emotions about this defense, but somewhere where I don't have mixed emotions is about this pass rush. Where is it? Kayvon Thibodeau, top 10 pick. Brian Burns, we paid him a fortune and traded for him this offseason. Where are they? It's not like we don't have an interior rusher to draw attention, right? We have Dexter Lawrence. It should be much easier for us to pressure now with 4, as we, the whole scheme is based off of rushing 4 and getting coverage sacks, right? But then you look at what we've done in this game. Jason Pinnock, safety, has 2 sacks. Micah McFadden, linebacker, has 1 sack, but I won't forget that he missed that one. And Jaden Daniels, I get he's a great athlete, but you got to come down with that sack early on in the game. Andrew Phillips, he got a sack. He had an awesome game. And then Bobby Okereke had a sack. So we've got 4 sacks coming from defensive backs. and 1 sack coming from our Pro Bowl, or should be Pro Bowl, middle linebacker. And then we've got nothing. Nothing from Dexter Lawrence, nothing from Kayvon Thibodeau, and nothing from Brian Burns. So, where is this pass rush? We got all this money, all these assets, all this draft capital. I like what Joe Shane has done with this team since he's taken over, but this is definitely something that, I mean, obviously the Evan Neal pick was bad, but I wasn't really expecting this unit to not perform this year, and so far it really hasn't. It really has not performed. The scheme hasn't been panning out for them. They haven't been getting the coverage sacks. I'm not even sure what's going on. Brian Burns is a good player. He was great on Carolina on a bad team, so I don't know why he would be any worse here. But he's been on pace for like 8 sacks every single season. So I'm just wondering when that first sack is going to come. And then Kayvon, he talks so much. He is like before this game, he was saying, "Oh, it's not really a rivalry," like, and whatever he was trying to say by it. It's just like I personally am not a huge fan of the way he carries himself because if he was a Pro Bowler and he was getting like 12 sacks and, great pressure percentage every year, and it looked like he was going to be a no doubt contract extension and he was a great pick and the team was succeeding, I would be totally fine with him talking the way he does. But just the fact that he seems to be really, really spotty and have consolidated stats and games against like the Jets and the Commanders in a game like this where he should have shown up. He wasn't there. Now I'm asking, it's officially time to hit the panic button on Kayvon Thibodeau. Where is he? Because I haven't seen the development. I haven't seen him make any noise, and I'm just way out of patience when it comes to this pass rush. I did mention before Andrew Phillips got a sack. He looks awesome. He looks like a steal. So, although our secondary has its struggles, at least some of our young players are looking like they're going to stick around and they're going to be good players. So, to address the rest of the secondary, I thought it was weird how we're blitzing our DBs. It's like what we did with Martindale. It's like, aren't we supposed to be doing like the complete opposite thing? Maybe what Shane Bowen was thinking is Jaden Daniels is a smaller quarterback. So you don't need a 250-pound defensive end to tackle him, but that same defensive end might not be able to catch him. So let's send some DBs and some safeties who can certainly catch him, but are also not going to be too small to tackle him, right? Because if it's Josh Allen or some other really really big quarterback, it's not really the best idea to send a defensive back to go sack him. But someone who's like a buck 90, like Jaden Daniels, I get it, but like I'm just the middle of the field seemed open the whole game. So I'm just like that. Not only were they running the ball all over us, but like I mentioned in the beginning, Zach Ertz, like he was killing us. These deeper intermediate routes over the middle and like near the hashes, like I don't know why it seemed like it was always open, and every time we got them into second and long or something, they would convert on a play like that. So I have really conflicted feelings about this defense as a whole. I mean, in the end of the day, with all this being said, we must tackle well because as we got to the red zone and things compressed, we didn't allow a single touchdown. As I mentioned before, 7 field goals. I mean, 7 field goals is not great, right? Because that means you can't stop them from moving the ball. But if you could stop them in a red zone, that's a good place to start. So, not really sure how to feel about this defense. So, time for my closing thoughts. For the team, things are looking pretty grim. And a big part of that has to do with the schedule. But, you start 0-2. You lose to a divisional opponent that you historically have owned. So that's not a great way to start the season. And although it's certainly an improvement from last week, you just you can't help but look at the schedule and wonder when are we going to win our first game. So the hope is with everyone healthy and Brian Daboll's, coaching adjustments starting to take form because we already saw a huge improvement from week 1 to week 2. Yes, it was a much easier defense, but we saw even last year with all the adversity that we faced, Brian Daboll's still able to coach some wins out of a worse team, undeniably worse team. So if he can make those season adjustments and the team stays healthy, there can be hope that the offense isn't going to be high scoring, but it'll be efficient. We'll win the turnover battle. We will win time of possession. We'll run the ball, and we'll get Malik Neighbors the ball on third downs or got to have it situations, and you can live with that. You can win games like that, especially if your defense has a good performance. But for the defense, the secondary just seems like, I don't understand what we were doing with the blitzes, but it just seems like the secondary isn't playing well together. Like there are voids in the zone coverage, and we just can't stop teams from moving the ball past the 50, and a, that the whole secondary is being assisted, right? Rushing four, at most blitzing like five. You're supposed to be getting coverage sacks, right? Because you have so many guys in coverage that you can only send, what is it, five guys downfield, right? And you got seven in coverage on average every play, but you can't stop them from getting past the 50. What's going on here? So if they can't improve, we are cooked as a team. Like this defense was supposed to be a reason that the lackluster yet efficient offense could help us win games, but if they don't improve, it's not going to happen. So before we end this, I want to look at the upcoming schedule and give some of my thoughts. All right. So as we look at the upcoming schedule, it is looking very bad. We're going to Cleveland to play the Browns, although they've had some pretty poor quarterback play recently. Their defense is elite, and this is going to be a huge challenge for this offensive line to see how they can hold up against dudes like Myles Garrett. Ugh, I'm not excited for that game. I just have a really bad feeling about it. But there's always a chance in any game that you can win. And then you have a short week, and you get the Cowboys at home on Thursday. I mean, they typically own us, so on a short week, I'm really not sure. They didn't look great last week, but you can't really bet a win there. The Seahawks look good. They're only going to get better too with Mike McDonald continuing to coach away and improve their defense. And then you get the Bengals, who, they were right there with the Chiefs. Their early season woes are going to be over before ours are. So that's probably 0-4 right there. And then you get the Eagles, who look like the best team in the division, 0-5. Steelers, potentially winnable game, but that defense, once again, is going to give our offense trouble. Daniel Jones, I can't remember him ever playing well against the Steelers. Then you get the Commanders again, potential W. Obviously, we didn't win this time, so not going to really be hopeful for this. And then this should be, and this is in Germany, I'm pretty sure. Two teams that might not have a single win going into this game. This has got to be the first one. I don't care. We are a much better team than the Panthers, and especially by this point in the season, Brian Daboll, he's shown already that he can, make coaching improvements throughout the season. Dave Canales, he's a great coach, but this Panthers team just might not have it. So that should be the first win. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1-7, 1-9 on the season. That's probably a loss to the Buccaneers. I mean, anything can happen, but in Jerry World, probably a loss. It's two more. So that's 1-11. Saints, I would have thought we would have beaten them in the preseason, but looking at how they're playing right now, definitely not. So that's a loss. Ravens, I mean, they're fluky right now with their offensive line struggles and their, kind of lack of identity on offense, but they're a far better team than we are. The Falcons, they're playing right now against the Eagles. They should be, in their rhythm by this point. Colts, I thought they were going to be a lot better this year, but they're definitely a better team than we are. However, I do think Anthony Richardson's you know, either big play or missed check down versus Daniel Jones is like, I'm going to have these long drives where I try not to make mistakes. We could pull that one out. And then Eagles, we did win this game last year. Maybe they're setting their starters. So we're looking at, I'm seriously considering the fact that we might, at this point in time, it looks like only one win. However, you would have said the same thing last year, right? And things were worse. So I do think this is a harder schedule than last year and the year before. But that 7-win total isn't looking likely at all. However, I do think 5. We could probably get 5 upsets. in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 15 games. So rest of the season isn't looking too hot, but it's a really long season, right? A lot can change for all of these teams. You don't know what this offense is going to look like a month from now. You don't know what this defense is going to look like a month from now. How is this coaching staff going to respond to an 0-2 start? I think the players, at least on offense, have picked it up. If the players on defense pick it up, then it's just going to be on the coaching. But everyone's got to stay healthy. If we start to suffer injuries, this season is even more gone than it already is. If you made it this far, thank you for watching the whole video. Leave a comment letting me know if you agree or disagree. Where do you think this Giants season is going? Are the coaches going to get these players playing to their best potential? Are we going to win 5 games? Or is this season going down the drain? Is this a season where it all falls apart? And some people are going to get fired. Some people are going to get cut. Let me know what you think. And if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like. And if you aren't already, please subscribe. We're at 31, so 19 away from 50. That's my next milestone. I was pretty hype about the 25 subscriber milestone, but job's not finished, right? Always got to get to the next milestone. So thank you all for watching. And if you're a Giants fan, try to have a better week.